minimize this. So I have a little bit of disruption, sorry. I'm trying to turn everything off on this monitor. All right. Well, let's get started. ZENworks bundling and deployments today. So we're today's April 5th. Hope everybody's doing well. Let me get my chat up over on this other device so I can see if anybody's talking. Oh boy. And so, so we're doing bundles, and I hope everybody's doing well. We're going to talk a little bit about bundles. This is one of our top viewed since we did it a couple years ago, actually. So we're going to give it another go today. But let's get through a few things first. ZENcast Live for ZENworks admins and the ZENworks community. Anybody that wants to know about ZENworks can join us. We are present the first and third Tuesday of every month at 9 o'clock Mountain Time. And you can always get details and other recordings on the Micro Focus Unified Endpoint Management Support and Trainings channel. We have the ZENworks, which is ZCM. We have ZENcast, all the ZENcasts themselves, Service Desk, and desktop containers. You can also check the schedule online to see what's coming up. So we've adjusted it since. We have April. Today we're doing the bundle and deployment, and we're doing ZRS. We're doing some ZSD 8.3 upgrade demonstrations, tapping into the databases, streaming, and encryption. Also, you can look down here to see, actually to go to the YouTube ZENcast directly. We have it by product related and so forth. So feel free to go on out there and see what we've talked about already. You might find some great information out there. A little bit of housekeeping. Subscribe. Please subscribe, and notifications. You'll get notified when we are going live. Also, when you log into YouTube chat, you can easily see, you can put an @ sign in front to direct message people, and you can see what's going on in chat. Viewing, set it to auto 720p 60, and that's with the gear down below. And then the comments and likes, please come back. And once this is published, which is pretty much immediately, I go in and I add the URLs to the different things like the presentations and so forth. So be aware that that's there. I'm happy to help out. And you can go on back to the recording and actually get the presentations as well. So here's our schedule. Just went over that and by looking at the online on-demand library. One thing that we did have was we had event recordings for Universe 2022 can be found. There's a bunch of different ones that we had, and you could see them out under the universe. Even if you didn't attend, you can go back and see the different sessions, and you might be able to get some ideas of what's going on. Here's a small list of what's going on in the universe this last month. In the community, so Spring for Shell came out, vulnerability, so we're not impacting at all. We did post up on the community site and did have a TID out there as well, that it doesn't affect the ZENworks products. 8.3 was released, so you'll see that out on the community site as well. And you can see the what's new video out there as well. So we have a what's new video and an upgrade tutorial. Both are out there under YouTube, and you can see how to actually go through the upgrade as well as what's new. Okay, support and training YouTube channel, we covered that already. There's some new things in the community regarding maybe your item names are real long. You can adjust those in ZENworks Service Desk, so that's cool solutions out there, as well as ZCM Windows 11 eligibility filter. Okay, being able to manage that with your Windows 11. The ZSD sidebar, being able to adjust your sidebar on the left-hand side here. And then item identifier label, being able to get and an easier view of what that item stands for. So simplifying the item searches when you're in ZENworks Service Desk. Okay, so those are some of the community things that came through recently. We also have a Ttp Conference Survey link. Please go, if you don't know about TTP, log into the ttp.org. And it's about collaboration, community, and events, and surrounding not just the ZENworks stuff, but a lot of the Micro Focus, different Micro Focus products and the events that's going on. And typically they'll have a couple every year, but with COVID, they've had to do virtual. And this survey helps understand what the community is looking for as far as next steps for new conferences. And then the KuppingerCole Analytics has come out with us on Unified Endpoint Management. So we appreciate everybody that's supporting us with ZENworks, and shout out to you for being able to get us onto KuppingerCole and being analyzed. UEMP, we're at update 2. You can see some TIDs here. Upgrade cookbooks, ZRS 7.8, what's a new README, ZSD version 8.3 is the latest. MFDC version 22.1 is out there as well. So you have links here. If you download our presentation here, you'll be able to get those links right in the presentation. And ports and protocols. So this is a recap of last week. And ports and protocols, default ports, we covered default ports, TLS. We had some ZCM documentation links as well as ZSD documentation links, and we covered some vulnerabilities. So ports and protocols is very important. What's active? What do you leave default? If you go to your own custom, what to do? Again, some email protocols that we talked about, a couple of commands. One thing that came in afterwards was a TCP dump. We appreciate those that added to that as well. So building bundles. So today's agenda, we're going to be building bundles. And we're going to do some things like very simple things from commands all the way out to PS1 scripts, install files locally, and install a license for Office, gathering logs, etc. And let's see. We'll also cover some permissions, advanced bundle ordering, what's that all about, launching options, requirement, bundle in action, uninstall, how to get those commands, deployment schedule, and you can download the bundle, the info collect bundle as well. So there we go. I need to get me off the screen. I'm sorry, I'm still on the screen, aren't I? Hang on a sec. Let's go and take me off. Okay. All right. And so we're going to get right into it. We're going to go to the lab. There are some references here about MS Office license status, activation using KMS, finding the activation status, consolidation of licenses. What do you do? There's some links out there about doing some of that stuff because we've had these come into support, and so we want to make sure we can get you some details right away. And then tools to manage the Office licenses. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to go to the lab. Let's go over to the lab. And here we have, let's see if I timed out. Yeah, I timed out. So let's go ahead and log in. Let me make sure we have this full enough. Okay. So and I don't see anybody in chat right now. We got some details in chat. I'm on my other screen. I'm hoping that chat's live and that you're able to bring your input into chat. So some of these have come in from customers. Some of these have come in from when I was with my previous employer, and things that we did with bundles. So I hope that we can get you some details here about these things, that you can advance your bundle scheme and deployment so that you can make it work even better for you. Okay. So first off, we're going to go in and we're going to look at the shutdown. Why would you have shutdown? You may need it for your tech environment. So you notice I put them under tech tools. Okay. And so you have some information. Again, make sure you put in your administrator notes so that you have details about it. This one we put in the HTML where it was found in all the different switches. So when you're in this bundle, you can actually see what's going on with this bundle. And you don't have to look them up, or if you need to, you have the references right there. All right. So we'll go to Actions. And in this case, we're not using any distribute files. In most of them, they aren't unless we're pre-deploying, right? We want to put the files out there ahead of time. We can send the distribute files actions to be able to run some pre-deploy into cache or something. All right. In this case, we're just calling an executable shutdown. And again, you can see we got the switches in here. We got the success return codes. And the other thing is test, 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 right? You may have, when depending on who programs the install or the launch, you may come up with some return codes, and those return codes may be I need to reboot, or I have a I'm waiting to reboot because I just had an update, and things like that. So be sure to, you'll see the success return codes. You can easily find them out there, Google them for seeing what they're for. And if you want it to bypass the return success code, the success return codes, you can put them in here. So in a few of the bundles, you'll see different numbers in here. And that's because we have tested it and realized we don't need that particular return code to stop the process, right? The other thing that we did, this is launch executable action. So we have calling executable, and then we give a little detail. The nice thing about that is when you have a list of actions here, you may not, it just gives more description of what it's doing, and you'll see those in our bundles as well. So we have this shutdown. You can see that we're advanced and we're running a secure system user, right? Which does not allow the system to interact with the desktop. It's just going to go ahead and take care of it. Do not wait. We don't need to wait until a particular process is done. We're just going to, this is just a straight command. We're going to launch. Okay, so this is just a basic, simple command that's elevated so that it just takes care of business as far as a shutdown. The other thing is the requirements. Be aware of the requirements. They can really help you out, and we'll see those in some of ours. So we'll cover these. We have a few of them to cover, so we'll cover these in today's ZENcast. So that's a shutdown, and you can see that I have it related to a tech tools for technicians, so that I could just put this bundle. I can relate this to all the technicians or their devices, or however you're going to relate them, by just adding this in. All these particular commands will be, or bundles will be in on the technician's desktop, and we can see that over here. See how that's played out. Okay, so this is a desktop Windows 10 that we obviously have joined to this zone. Okay, and you can see it's under administration and tech tools, and there they are. Okay, all right, so we'll minimize that. So that's just a basic command. Another one would be command elevated, right? Again, we're going to run the command prompt. This is very handy for technicians that are going to a site that may need to get to the command line elevated as an administrator. And the nice thing about this is even though you're logged in as the customer, you can log out of the ZENworks and log in as yourself, right? And I'm looking for, let me go full screen. So if you can log in and log out, right? Sign in, sign out. so that you can actually get your icons in the Zap window. Okay, so it makes it very handy for you to be able to troubleshoot at an elevated level, even though the user's logged in, which sometimes you have to do, right? Okay, and this is basic, again, another command, straight command. We have a launch command. What's the difference between install and launch? Okay, install is installing typically a one-time, right? You could set it to recurring, but one-time install. And then the launch is when you're actually executing the command. But remember, installing, you may need to execute an MSI or EXE to be able to install that program, right? But this would be actually launching the program. Okay, we'll cover a little bit about uninstall as well. So this is a command prompt, simple, easy. You can see launch executable, command exe. We're running as a dynamic administrator, so it's elevated. You can also put in credentials if you wanted to. And then again, do not wait. The options are just straightforward. No other details there. And I'm not seeing chat, and it might be. I have it on my other machine, so I believe chat is running. I can see if things are typed. If you're out there, please send out a chat real quick. That'll be helpful. Okay, so we've done that. We've done command line, and we are going to, next we're going to go to training area, Paul's workspace, ZENcast. So we have a few things in here we may want to do. Maybe add Windows 7 admin to users group. Okay, another command that we could do, again, put in some description, some details there. And as we go to requirements, we don't have anything. So there's requirements here, and then there's requirements for action. This is for the whole bundle. Whether or not you want this to deploy on certain machines with certain variables. This is whether or not you want these actions to run for this bundle. Okay, that's the differences there. Thanks, Valerie. Appreciate that shout out. Okay. So again, we have a basic batch file. Okay, so you can do batch files as well. And you can see we're just doing a net to the administrators group, and we have adding a group out there, this particular user. Okay, so this is a batch file. You can see the single parameters /c and so forth. Proceed with action when action is complete. So it sits there and makes sure it's complete before. And one thing it would be good to do is put in here batch file. So you can see it here. And that'll come to light soon. Let's go ahead and apply that. There's nothing under install or launch, obviously, because, I'm sorry, let's publish. Finish. So there's a script batch file. So this is done as a distribute action, okay? Because we want to run this early on under the covers in a sense, okay? So this one was designed for adding the Windows 7 admin to the administrators group. All right, great. And there's really nothing else here, straight command. How about finding a laptop for Christy Delano? Okay, again, this is just a very simple, this bundle will display a message that the laptop could not be found. If we go to the requirements, we don't have any. If we go to actions, we could then see under prompt user, you could see the emergency here. Hey, by the way, please contact 555 blah blah blah, right? This laptop is not functioning correctly, so if there's a lost laptop, you can always throw something out there and just give a prompt. If it got misplaced or it's connected to the LAN, it'll go out there and kick it off. Okay, so that's a prompt user. Okay, all right. And these are probably generic. We could get real deep. I'm going slow here. I'm going a little bit at a time. So we have the VMware Horizon client user configuration. Now this one gets a little more detail. All right. We have our service desk in here. We have some details there. If we go to actions, let's see what we have going on. So we have a few more things. Create directory, right? Type VMware. So in this case, we're going to put it under app data VMware. Okay. Run as a logged in user, so it's in their profile. All right. The other thing you could do for this action is you could say if a directory is not there, if file is not there or directory is not there, right? So that way it just bypasses doing this action because it didn't meet the criteria. All right. Here's VMware. So here's the it's actually going into that directory and dropping the client in there to be run again in the logged in users. And again, you can say if files exist, then you can bypass this because it's already preloaded. Okay. Now we get into a few more other details. All right. We're going to throw out a text file, which are the preferences for this particular client. All right. And we have identified some of these things, server name, broker arguments, and some details about that. And I don't think we have any requirements in there, but you could see, again, we're going into prefs.txt and making sure certain things are in there. Okay. Come on now. There we go. So for server name, you can see we have things in here, right? And things in here. So there are different details in there about these configurations so that it's taken care of. Okay. So let's go ahead. So you can see here again, app data horizons prefs text. And you're making sure the proper configurations are set. And again, you're looking at launching this and installing this VMware Horizon client user. Then you have the prefs text and you're dropping a file in. Okay. And again, the logged in user, no requirements there. All right. Now that this would be for your install, right? It's installed the file, it's edit the text. And I guess I don't have the launch. So this is setting it up to be installed later. Or if it's installed, it drops in the particular prefs.txt file so that you can make sure that it's always using the right one. We had one where we did a TNS names for our Oracle database, and every once in a while those names would change, and so all we had to do was just keep repeating this particular action, and we would set the requirements for deployment continually. Every time the user launched a PeopleSoft application, it would first go to install the TNS names. Okay, so the power of ZENworks there, yeah. I can look here real quick while we're actually, let me go over here. I want to go bundles. See if I have, I don't know why I'm scrolling. I don't know where my search is. Let's go over here. Let's go full screen. Go bundles. That's what I'm looking for. Let's go Horizon and search. And so we had, yeah, this is the test one that we're using. Okay. I didn't bring in their actual launch for Horizon. So this is basically Oh, exactly what it says, client user configuration. Okay, so it's basically configuring the client so that it always has the right components, just like we did with our TNS names. Okay. Now let's go into Adobe a little bit. All right. We have a few things in here. We have an update, we have apply configuration, we have install files, and then we have another install down here. All right. So basically we have an install files, I think was the first one. If we go into this one, we'll see that it has a count of 19 bundle orders. So we have a bundle order because in this case, we went from a single individual installs to a corporate-wide enterprise license for Adobe. And so we had various versions out there and we had bundles for each of these. So we knew what was out there. So in this case, we needed to identify. So we have bundle ordering on so that we can, if we needed to remove or we needed to update, we could do so and just send them in a particular bundle order. Okay, so that's very handy if you're using bundle orders. So if we go to requirements, there aren't any, but if we go to actions, we can see install directory. All right, again, what we're doing is we're installing files. Let me get this a little bit bigger for you. Install files. So we're basically going to install a Acrobat DC in the bundle cache. Why bundle cache? Well, it's kind of protected. It has some, you have to have some permissions to get into there. So they decided to use that permissions already available and drop files behind the scenes there. Okay. And so you can see the Windows directory, the source directory, and then the destination directory is here. Okay. Copy always, secure system user, so it's behind the scenes. The user doesn't see anything that's going on. So they can pre-deploy or at least drop these behind the scenes in a particular schedule that they want. There's not going to be anything in the launch, so we're pretty much done with this bundle. Again, this is very simple, just an install directory. All right. Then as we go to the install, once it's installed, we can go here and we can see that we might put, look, we have the bundle cache. Does it exist? Yes. So since it exists, this bundle will execute. It will not execute even if it's assigned, if it doesn't see this file, okay? Because that's under the bundle requirements, okay? One thing to note here when you're testing, show application icon if system requirements fail. This is great for testing. Check this box so that when you're testing on the device, you can go, well, it's not, why didn't my install start, or why isn't the icon showing? That's because it doesn't see. You can then troubleshoot a little bit easier and see that it just didn't have all the requirements met. Okay. All right. So we're going to go into actions again, and we have this install, and you can see a few more things are in here. We're going to do a network install, right? In the network install MSI, we're going to go ahead and again, we're going to use that AcroPro MSI. We're going to do an I for install. Here's the uninstall parameters. Here's the F. Okay, for repair. Out here, you can see there's some other things like we're asking for an install log. Okay. And if we go over here, we put that in log cache local. Okay. There's a no restart command, a QN, which is quiet. So it's running the MSI quiet, no restart. All right, which is, it's going to presume that all the MSI next, all those requirements is pre-configured. Okay. Now, one thing I didn't look at, okay, so let's continue here. Advanced. So you can see there's the MST. There's the MST that gives us all the commands, right? It's still, again, secure system user. All right. So we've added the transform files in here because those next, you can create to a transform file and actually get things rolling and do a silent install. Okay. Now for this particular action, the requirements, there aren't any requirements, and that's the first one. One thing I do want to check that I didn't go to, we've done install network MSI, but if you look under summary, you can see that this particular bundle is 53. And you'll say 53, that's a lot. Well, you could skip numbers too, but also we had multiple versions that are out there as well. So we can go back to the install. So then we're moving the log script. After it's done its MSI install, it moves the log script. Okay, so let's edit this so we can see what it says. And it's going out to the MS and install date. It's doing some date parameters and time parameters so we can get some details of that log right in the name of the log. Okay? Because if you're installing again, maybe they clicked on it 2 or 3 times, or you're still testing, you want to see what that log output is. Okay, so this has changed in this bundle. This has changed to a date and timestamp so that we can now determine what's going on with that particular launch of the MSI. And then the script engine is there as well, being able to see the script engine, okay, for the batch file. Now let's go to edit the text file. So this is a text file that has file associations for Acrobat. Okay, so we have these particular, we named it file associations as a file, and we developed that file, and the contents of the file are here. And you can see that there's different things about this association for this file. Now it's getting fairly deep, but remember, as you learn about the product, you find newer ways of installing it and more efficient ways of installing it, and that's why we use ZENworks, right? Being able to do that, and we run it as a system. Okay, because we want to make sure that file associations XML actually is edited. Okay, and again, that's in bundle cache. Now that we have those sequences done, and there may be others in between, we can go over to the apply. So now there's a command to apply those associations. Okay, using the Windows command, online import associations, and using that. So now we have those PDFs and those types of files that PDF launches associated to Adobe Acrobat DC. Okay. Again, proceed when action is complete. So it waits. The nice thing, do not wait, we'll just rattle straight through all these actions over here. But if you do the proceed when action is complete, it'll wait for a return code before it moves on to the next action. All right, so if things are locked up and not moving forward, you may have this on because it got an error, and that's where you check that log file. Okay, so now that I don't think there's anything under launch. We've done our install, right? We've done our install of MSI. We've moved the log file so that in case there's any issues, we can look at that log file for that last launch of the MSI. We've edited the file associations and applied the file associations for that particular install of Adobe Acrobat DCE. Okay, this 9214 was the last 4 digits, I believe, or 4 digits of the license, so that we could tell which license we were deploying. Okay. So now that it's installed, now that you're going to say, well, what about we didn't tell, obviously in this particular case, we didn't tell ZENworks to launch Adobe. we've only told it to install. Okay, and oh, let's look. Do we have uninstall actions? No, no uninstall. Oh, there are some uninstall actions. They're currently disabled. Let me enable these so we can look at these. Okay, so you can see this one is disabled. All right, this is the default one. If it's simple, undo install actions works fairly well. I typically turn it off and do my own processes. And in this case, you can see we end process, make sure that these processes are closed, right? So we're ending all the Acrobat processes that may be launched when you install and are running Adobe Acrobat DC. Okay. And so then launch the MSI EXE. Now you may ask, well, where do I get this? Right? Well, I'm going to go ahead and break out and go to my desktop and open up Regedit. The easiest way, like I said, I typically turn off undo install actions because we need some cleanup. We need other things to take care of. And if you go to local machine software, Microsoft Windows current version uninstall, and you're probably familiar with this, you can go to uninstall. Where did I go? Right here. And then you can see the different things that are installed. And in here, you'll see an uninstall string. This is what the system knows it as. It's GUID, right? So this is the uninstall string. You change this to a -X. Right now, the install, the -I is default. So if you were to run this, it would then do its processing and say, oh, it's already installed. Do you want to repair or uninstall, right? But you could change that straight to an X and then do some QNs/QNs or other commands for the MSI exec. So MSI exec commands like /QN, and it'll do silent if you've tested that it's all silent, right? But that's where you see that. But don't be fooled if you don't see it in here. Again, with 32 and 64-bit, you may have to go down to the Win3264, the WOW3264 node, 6432, and you'll see other things in here. Okay, so you'll go into Microsoft Windows again. Should have just hit W, Windows current version, and then uninstall. And then by opening this up, we have other things in here. Okay, this particular one, it's the ZENworks Agent Core modules. This GUID is patch languages, and so forth. Okay, some of them put their names on them. Let me go a little wider. All right, mplayer, 7-zip, uninstall string. Okay. And then you could typically get from their site, if it's just an uninstall.exe, you typically can get from their site the commands to uninstall it silently. All right, again, just learning about that particular program, getting intimate with it. Okay, so that's how you get the uninstall string, if that makes sense. It's all in the registry. And then you can also, and that's why we want to make sure it's related. Close this, minimize this. So you want to make sure that this actually exists, right? So you may have some system requirements for that as well. All right. But if it's installed, you pretty much know it is. Here's 3010, and that's typically waiting for a reboot. Bypass, if I remember correctly, it's waiting for a reboot. And you could bypass that and just go ahead and finish the system. Otherwise, it'll stop, right? Okay, so there's 5 of 5 items. We did. Oh, we launched the MSI, moved the log file. Again, we've moved the log file again so that we know that we've uninstalled it. Run the same batch file, and we ran it as secure system user again. So now we have an uninstall log, and then file removal, making sure we do a little cleanup. Okay. So removing this particular file, associations.xml, from the system. And the other thing you can do is you can go here and say Control-C, cancel, requirements, add filter, select, file exists. Okay. Probably. Okay, something like that. All right, so that's the uninstall. And it becomes really handy if you want to clean up. I'll go ahead and publish this with the uninstall on. Again, you can publish to a new version, just another version, or you can publish as a new bundle, right? And give it a name, tell it where to put it, and so forth. And then in our case, we'll do new version. And so now we've published 2, but we can always go back to 1 and see this is the one that didn't have the uninstall enabled. Okay, and 2 did. All right, so you can always go back here and make a change to something. Let's go to actions. Let's go and say we want options enable. Oops. Oh, I can't modify that one. But if we went to here and we saved anything in here, sorry, we'd have to do create a sandbox from 1. And then from there, we can add a new license key or something if it's a particular license that you need to do, and then actually go in here and create it as a new bundle. Okay. So there's different things that you can do, especially even when you're publishing. You can make changes and be able to take older ones and revamp them into newer ones. Okay. So that's the install. And you may ask, well, what's this one here? Now this was an install of Adobe. Okay. And if we go to our actions, we can see a few things. Install Microsoft Visual C++. Okay. We have a bundle for Microsoft Visual C++. So no sense adding it into this as a separate part of this install. Just launch that bundle. Okay, so we've launched that bundles. We've basically knitted it together, and we're looking for a particular GUID that's there. If it does not exist, and this one I'm trying to get over, let's see what it is. Oh, if the Visual C++, this is a Visual C++ GUID, is not there, then go ahead and install it, because that was under the uninstall path, meaning if it's installed, there'll be something under the uninstall path. So we've said if that is installed, we know that uninstall path will be there, right? That particular key in the registry. So we're basically installing that bundle first. All right. Then we're going to install the MSI like we did before. Okay. This is a -QB minus or /QB minus. Okay. We have some serial numbers in here. I believe we don't have a transform. We just went ahead and did serial number and some other details. Okay. And we have this on a particular server for licensed applications so that it's secure and private. People can't just go browse out there and start installing it. Okay, so notice there's no transform files because we edited the MSI properties during the install. It basically latches these commands onto the end of this MSI program install and puts these in place as well. So this is another way to do Adobe. Now Adobe does do a good transform. It has a transform generator. which seems to be fairly good. But this way works just as well. Okay. And you can see run as dynamic administrator. We're running as a dynamic administrator, and the requirements, there are none. Okay. So we've done our Microsoft Visual C++. We've done our MSI. Now we're going to do some registry activation. And you can see here that we go into the registry and we do a few things. Notice it's Adobe Acrobat 11 activation, and we put in the disabled, and we also have to put it over here. In our testing, we noticed that this was needed, and you could see create always. Okay, so this was part of our own silent install of this particular Acrobat, Adobe Acrobat. And you could run action as system. Okay, we don't need to apply anything else. And I don't remember if there's any requirements for this action. Okay. Now we did disable the reboot shutdown prompt. You can put one in if you wanted to. You can also continue on failure if you need to. What this means is if you get that, if you didn't put that 3110 code in there, or if it got an error while it was going along, go to the next action. Okay. In this case, we've disabled this action, so it's going to go to the prompt to skip registration. And this is the registration prompt. Opening Adobe Acrobat for the first time, select skip. So it's telling the user what's going on. Just go ahead and say skip. We've taken care of the activation if you get this prompt. Okay. And again, that's always run when this install is happening. Again, we talked a little bit about install versus launch. This is a one-time, typically a one-time thing, and then the launch is common. So you wouldn't want to put this always under launch in this particular case. There are cases where you may want to. Now the icon obviously is set to the desktop, so we've left that alone. There are some uninstall things as well. Again, we disabled the undo install actions because we want to do some particular things when we uninstall. And process Acrobat. Now you may ask why we're doing end process Acrobat. If it is open, we want to make sure it's closed. And if we are doing an upgrade, we want to make sure the user hasn't left this open so that we could still do our upgrade. Okay, so if we're doing it even behind the scenes. And then we have the launch executable. And here's that GUID we talked about. Okay, and it's an MSI command, no restart. Okay. Do not wait, just go do it. Right? Run as dynamic administrator. Make sure when it's run, it makes a dynamic administrator on the box dynamically, and it will have all the rights it needs. Okay. So that's our uninstall for that one. If you had repair, you can always enable repair, and it will launch the repair that we found in here. Okay. Again, if you don't know what those commands are, I forgot to show you this. This gives you a nice little pop-up of those particular commands. No restart, -QB, no dialog at the end, minus, so we saw that /QB minus. Install, administrative install, all users, and so forth. So if you just tick these, it'll build it down here, and you can see that it will take care of those particular commands for that particular command line. Okay. So we only have 5 of 5 there. Do we have, let me see if we have at the beginning. Yeah, we don't have any bundle ordering or dependencies. Okay. So we've covered the Adobe, and one last one we're going to do here is we're going to go into Office. And there's a few in here. We're going to cover a few of these. These are just to put the icon. In this case, we are putting, ZENworks is putting the icon on the desktop. All right. And so for this particular action, you'll see that we're going to launch the executable msexe, and here's the particular commands for doing so. All right. So we're controlling the icons for Office because we have some that aren't allowed, don't want to use Access or don't want to use Excel. They just want PowerPoint and Word. So for the department, we are controlling that for them. Okay. And so you'll see a few of these in here. You see the same thing with Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, and Word. And so if you look at the requirements, you'll see that it must have that Outlook.exe there in order for it to even show up. Okay, so if we've installed it without Outlook, it will not show up because this particular bundle says we don't. It has to exist for us to be there. Let's go into install the base. All right, so we're going to go into this base, and you can see it's 50, right? Because we've done some other things. So this is one in a few different bundles that go out to this device for this install. And if we go to Actions, Install, you can see we've installed the volume license base. And again, this I think is the code for their license. Okay, so they have a particular XML, and then they drop that destination file name in there, and they're putting it in the bundle cache again. Okay, run a secure system user. Okay, so that's the base. Then we launch the setup.exe. Again, the 3010 code is common for the Microsoft and other products. So we config. We're running the setup.exe with the /config, and we go to that file so that we could license it. Okay. Proceed with action. Again, some other details here. No requirements for this action itself. And then we do have a file removal. Afterwards, we want to make sure we remove that file. So the next step is to remove that file so it's not lingering out there because it does have the license code. Again, this is all one install. So it goes here, setup, remove the file now that setup's done. Let's go back in here and look a little bit closer if there's any requirements. No, none. Okay. And then repair Pro Plus. Sometimes when you do these installs, it says you must run a repair. We found this on this particular product. So we did so. We just ran a repair, and you can see repair plus out XML. And we dropped that file out there. And we can repair it as well as uninstall actions if we wanted to uninstall Pro Microsoft Office. All right. We don't have any launch repairs set up, so we can launch the executable. And what are we calling out? We're going to call out that repair XML. Okay. Again, we're running it as a higher level. Proceed when action is complete. So you don't want anything else running while this is going on. You don't want another action to come right behind it. And then you don't want to move these logs, for instance, before it's done, right? And then you have the logs. And you can see the logs here. All right. So that's the base. And then let's say you want to add Word. So you have the base and you want to add Word. We're going to go, let's see if there's any requirements here. There are. So you got to make sure that it's installed before you add Word, right? Pro Plus is installed. And then if you look here, you can, so what we've done is we've installed the base and said, okay, this department gets Word and PowerPoint, this department gets Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. And so you can control it just by these XML files. Okay. All right. One thing I probably should point out, fail action if these requirements fail. So if you do have action requirements, you can make it fail just because the requirements aren't met. Okay. Launch the setup.exe using that particular Word XML that we just dropped down to the desktop in bundle cache, and then removing that Word.xml. Okay. Wow, this hour went fast. So much to talk about with bundles all the time. We did have an install files, which was lower on the list. Again, 19. I can't remember now if I even covered this. Probably be able to tell right here. Directory. No. So this is an Office 2010-32. This is pre-deploying ahead of time, trickling it down under the wire. You can throttle it if you want, but basically putting that bundle cache out there ahead of time so that it already exists instead of everybody coming in at 8 and hitting, I want to install Office, and it trying to download to everybody at one time. Okay, so we had a separate bundle just to install the files. And hang on one second, let me look one right here, requirements. You can put a requirement in here. It's probably set to run once, right? But you can set requirements. If file exists, then you don't need to download, right? Because it's already downloaded in case something goes awry. Okay, again, that would be for this bundle. I don't see any questions. Valerie, thanks for chiming in. We're coming close to the top of the hour. I know it's getting late for some of you. What else was there? Hang on one sec. Let me look and see if I have. Where did my PowerPoint go? Gather logs, client user configuration script, install license, and then some of the details. Advanced bundle ordering we covered, launch options, uninstall we did. Again, deployment schedule. If you go to relationships, and let's go ahead and just go to workstation support. This guy's out there. We go full screen. Okay. Again, you could put it depending on what you're doing, where you're putting it, and then hitting next, and then you have your distribution schedule. You can check all of these if you want, but let's say you hit distribution schedule ahead of time. You want to do it midnight till whenever, right? You could then install immediately after distribution, which means it'll go to that install tab and run those executions, those actions. And then you could go launch immediately after, which means it'll launch it right afterwards. Or you can uncheck them altogether. Okay, so those are some details there as well. Being able to set reoccurring, a now, a date specific, a particular event that happens. You can, user log out, device unlock, ZENworks login, install immediately, right? So those are some of the details that you can do with your distribution schedules. Okay. And schedule. And this will also be in the comments below the recording. The info collect, we've distributed last time. Not much has changed on it, so if you have it, you still have it, but this is a nice way to collect log files. If a user is having an issue and a lot of times when they log out and technician logs in or something, you can't grab those logs because sometimes they'll disappear depending on what the product is. Collect info, you could put in their app launcher and say, click this, and it'll go behind the scenes and be elevated to collect all the logs. Maybe you need user logs, maybe you need device machine logs, those types of things. So it's a real handy. I've used it in support when I was in support, and it was pretty effective for the user. So, oh, and so here again, these are some Microsoft links because it's pretty popular, that particular product. So you have some links there in the presentation as well, and the presentation will also be linked. Will also be in the recording. And I just want to say, next time we're going to be gathering critical data with ZRS, whether it's ZCM or whether it's ZRS. We're going to do it with ZRS, whether it's ZCM or ZSD. And I just want to say thank you and be safe. Thank you, everybody, for attending and your time today. And I appreciate